So several times during these modules, we talk a lot about therapy and coaching. And a lot of people have this question, should I see a therapist or should I see a coach? What really is coaching? So I thought I'd take just a couple of minutes to explain what the difference between the two and maybe which one you should use. So the first thing to understand is that therapy and coaching, in my mind, are actually complementary. And what that means is that the training of a therapist and the training of a coach are actually quite different. So let's start by looking at therapists. So clinicians tend to have very clinical training, right? If you think about like a psychiatrist, I get trained in depression and anxiety and schizophrenia and drug addiction. We work in hospitals where there are people who are mentally ill. So therapy training is all geared towards treating mental illness. Coaching is a little bit different. Coaching isn't so much about treating mental illness. In fact, it's not about treating mental illness at all. It's really about understanding oneself a little bit better. And once you understand yourself a little bit better, then you can start to move forward in the way that you want to in life. So I think this is actually best illustrated by an example of a patient of mine that sort of, I think, really highlights the difference between the two. So I had a guy come to me who had been suffering from depression. So we started him on treatment. I started him on medication. We started doing a little bit of like the meditation and diet stuff and things like that. And then he started feeling better and he was like, yeah, my depression's getting better. My depression's getting better. And then we seemed to hit a wall. And he was kind of saying that, I feel like I'm not quite sure what's going on. We had stopped medication, by the way, so we'd taken him off of medication. He was kind of feeling well for a while, but he was sort of like, yeah, I don't know, I just feel like something's off and the depression's coming back. So I kind of did a clinical evaluation, right? I asked him questions like, are you having trouble sleeping? Are you feeling sad every day? Are you feeling depressed? And he said, no. And it sort of turned out that he didn't really meet clinical criteria for depression. So after talking to him for a little bit longer, I kind of said, well, I don't think you're depressed. I think you're unhappy. And there's a huge difference between the two. And I think that difference highlights the difference between a therapist and a coach. So a therapist is there to treat depression, and a coach is there to help you kind of find the road to happiness. When I think about my patients, my favorite part of the relationship, and it definitely happened with this guy, is when we transition from the psychiatrist to coach relationship. So we kind of stopped focusing on depression and we started focusing on building a fulfilling and happy life. And that's really what coaching is about. Coaching is really all about sort of understanding yourself better so that you can figure out what it is that holds you back from living the life that you want to. So sometimes I'll ask people like, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's the most important thing to you? And like, for example, I was working with one guy who was saying like, I want to write a sci-fi novel. And even though I'm successful, I work as a computer engineer, like the one thing that I want is to write a sci-fi novel. And then I'd ask him, well, why don't you? And then he's like, I don't know, because I'm lazy. But it turns out that the guy has a very serious job where he works tons of hours, is actually not lazy at all. So coaching is all about discovering what it is that holds you back. It's about more growth and development and optimizing your performance and understanding yourself so that you can move forward in the way that you want to. So hopefully that helps a little bit in sort of figuring out, whether coaching is right for you, whether therapy is right for you. A lot of people who come into our coaching will actually recommend a therapy, and a lot of people will actually be in both at the same time. And like I mentioned, I actually love doing both with my patients. So they're just a little bit different and more complementary as opposed to an either or. I'm so beautiful, it's such a burden. It's so hard to be so lovely.
It's coaching versus therapy. Take one. Any comment? All right.
A lot of times during these I don't want to use a lot. So during these modules, we've used the terms, I'm supposed to be looking over there.